Thank you, Madam Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, like what brought me to Toastmasters. I'm going to tell you about the cities that I've lived in, what I did while I was there, including my favorite thing to do in every city I lived in. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about my family. So what brought me to Toastmasters? And it's one simple word, anxiety. I have anxiety when I speak in public, and in particular, my voice quality. So this is something that I'm working on. This was not always an issue for me. Fortunately, I got through school no problem. I used to do school plays. I used to do school choir. So it was easy peasy. I've done wedding speeches. But about 10 years ago, I had a strange incident that I've told a few of you about, whereby I was giving a speech that I volunteered to give. It was a funny speech, sort of a rhyming poem for a retirement of my former director in my office. And my colleague from our communications office was off to my side. I didn't notice him at all. And then he flashed this camera in my periphery, and this bright light went off. And instantly, in the middle of my speech, I went into this panic state, and my face got red, and I felt myself getting hot. And those of you who are pale can probably relate to the redness. And since then, my body has kind of associated public speaking with this fear response. And I'm working really hard to unlearn this and to decouple these. And I'm hoping to be a lot like Laura. And she mentioned last time that if you had asked her to speak, she said she would have rather done anything else. And that's how I feel right now. But I'm working on no longer dreading it. And I'm really grateful for the supportive environment of you all, where I can kind of be myself, get through my anxieties with all your help. So now to the fun part, cities that I've lived in. So not so much a city, but I grew up in a small town called Hermitage, Pennsylvania. So if you look on a map, this is the last stop on Route 80, right before you hit Ohio, halfway between Pittsburgh and Erie on the western Pennsylvania border. I can tell you separately how my family ended up there. Um, Very few Jews in my community. I was one of them. Very slow paced environment. It's close to Western Pennsylvania Amish country, which I love and is very peaceful. There's a beautiful park near where I grew up, and it's very quiet and relaxing. So when I get back to visit my parents, it's so easy to get around. No one drives more than 40 miles an hour. I like to go shopping with my mom and meet with friends who still live there, and it's just a peaceful vacation when we go. I went off to college at University of Rochester, where I studied biochemistry. I didn't have a car up there, so I didn't get to explore a whole lot of the city, but I just loved our beautiful campus. We had those idyllic buildings on campus with the ivy and a beautiful quad and a gorgeous library with the stacks of books. And it was just a magnificent place. Although a lot of the science classes I took were in a building that I've subsequently learned is brutalist architecture, which is pretty heinous. So that's not the most beautiful part of campus, but most of it was very beautiful. I went to Cleveland for law school at Case Western Reserve University, where I studied health law. As you can imagine, I didn't have much of a life in Cleveland, so I did a little bit of exploration, but I did have my first apartment and my first real sense of independence. So that was what I loved most about Cleveland. And then I headed off to Chicago after that, where I did a fellowship in clinical medical ethics at the University of Chicago, and I lived in Hyde Park, and I just fell in love with Chicago. It was so easy to get around, and this is the days of pre-GPS. So I looked at a map and I said, okay, it's a grid system, and I know where Lakeshore Drive is, and I know that the lake is on the east side of the city, and I always got around, no problem at all. Unlike DC, where with a map and with GPS, I still can't figure out east and west and up and down. And in Chicago, I went to museums and theater, and there were a plethora of restaurants there, all of which I enjoyed. So I really like big city with a Midwest feel. After that, I moved to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where I knew nobody. And I was a research associate there at Louisiana State. And I had a ton of fun when I lived there. I met a group of friends, very like minded people through kickball, and I had a great time with them. We went to parades. Baton Rouge has, like New Orleans, Baton Rouge has some magnificent parades on Mardi Gras, and they have even a St. Patrick's Day one, and they're very long and just tons of fun, and people spend all year preparing for them. And the lifestyle there was just magnificent. And my favorite thing to do, though, in Louisiana was to go on swamp tours, which is something that I'm told the locals never do. And my favorite swamp tour, which if anyone's going down there, I'll tell you about, is in a town called Breaux Bridge out in Cajun country, run by a guy named Butch Gouchereau. And he had these boats that were maybe 5 to 7 people. And he would take you out in the middle of the bayou to see all kinds of magnificent wildlife. I moved here to this area in 2007. I used to go to museums, I used to go to the city a lot more, but I spend more time with my family now and do activities in the suburbs, which I really love. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about my family. My husband's name is Roy, and he is from Israel, as I've mentioned before. And my daughter is Rona, and she's 6, and I know I've mentioned her before as well. And so I just want to tell you a couple of funny stories about Rona, both as a bragging mommy, but also because she really likes words and language. And I thought that in particular, this audience would really appreciate that. I like to pun, I like to make jokes, sometimes off-color jokes, which I'll try to not do in this context. But I've been noticing what Rona picks up on and how she uses language. So, for example, we got her a doll called Barbie Skipper Babysitter. And this is a doll she really wanted. And so she kept calling her Barbie. I said, no, her Skipper. Skipper is Barbie's sister. Everybody knows this. Well, girls know this. And she said, no, 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 it's Barbie. She wasn't believing me. I said, so why do you think they call her Skipper? She has Skipper written on her foot. And she says, because she skips work to babysit. And so I thought, okay, this is a smart kid, and I can't really argue with that. And then the last story I wanted to share with you, again, is about how she manipulates language to get what she wants. And this is about dessert. So once she went out with Roy for a nighttime flashlight walk, which I referred to as an adventure, apparently. And he gave her some gummy candies while she was out there. And then she came home and said, I want dessert. And I told her, but you just had gummies. And she was trying to convince me that that wasn't dessert. And she said, that was an adventure taste. And so, anyway, that's my daughter's adventures with language. So, in sum, I really enjoy seeing her language evolve and what she picks up from us. And so, that's all about me. Thank you so much.